underestimated, yeah. Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, we the ones.
It's the Underdogs back with you. Happy July. I'm Jordan Brenner, joined as always by Peter Keating. Peter, there's a lot going on in sports right now. You've got NBA free agent signings, Paul George going to the 76ers. You got NHL moves. You got Euro. You got Copa America. The Olympics are right around the corner. Baseball at the midseason. You can even smell the sweat of NFL training camp coming up. We're not going to talk about any of this. We're going to talk about the only thing people truly care about this time of year. It's the show everyone waits all year for. I'm talking, of course, about our now annual Nathan's 4th of July hot dog eating contest preview.
Jordan, this contest has roots that go far, far further back than anyone realizes. You know, the great poet William Butler Yeats once wrote, "The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." What nobody realizes is he meant worst with a U.
Oh, God. Here we go.
Jordan, you know, everyone
and
knows.
So it begins.
Everyone knows I'm a ham. Everyone knows you're a hot dog. So I'll be candid with you and you be frank with me and we'll be great.
Wow. It was certainly the missing link in this podcast was your puns. So on that note, look, this year's contest, it kind of reminds me of when Michael Jordan went off to play baseball for a couple of years.
Indeed.
So you've got no Joey Chestnut because he's doing something with vegan dogs and has a special showdown with Kobayashi coming up. But from my perspective, since it was a foregone conclusion that he'd win and wins every year, this is actually exciting because we may have a photo finish on dogs this year.
Jordan, it's fantastically exciting. It's a good example of how, like, when you get rid of dominance in a sport, it can make things so much more exciting and competitive. Last year, Joey Chestnut was minus 2,500 to win this contest. This year, there are 4 competitors who are all from plus 100 to plus 650. I mean, the field is wide open and the candidates are interesting, aren't they?
Yeah. So let's go into that 4-horse race, if you will. And then maybe we can talk about a couple of long shots later. But so you've got Jeffrey Esper, finished second last year. He's your favorite now at plus 100. He had 49 hot dogs last year. James Webb, the Australian, checking in at plus 185. He had 47 hot dogs last year. Nick Weary, who we'll talk about as well, who's, as we know, is married to Mickey Sudo, the women's champion.
Mr. Mickey Sudo, yes.
That's right. He's at plus 550. He had 45 dogs last year. And coming back out of, I don't know where he was, Patrick Bertoletti, with a strong performance at the juiced Cleveland qualifier that we'll talk about.
It was not juiced.
It was juiced.
He came, it might have been juicy. He came back from a decade off. What's fascinating about him?
Plus 650. He's
plus 650. And you look, he set a bunch of world records like 15 years ago. Then he took a decade off, came back and ate. And here's the stat that I always love to bring up. He ate 48.25 hot dogs to edge Weary at the Cleveland qualifier. My question, as always, Jordan, who's counting the quarter hot dogs? When those guys are up there shedding and shredding buns, shoving, saliva, hot dogs, cases, sausage, meat, all this stuff flying everywhere, buckets of goo. Who's taking the hot dog count to the second decimal point? Can somebody?
It's like an amazing summer internship for Nathan's, doesn't it? You're the quarter counter, kid. Have some fun. So let's get into this. All right.
The fellowship. Yes.
All right. So look, Weary, you're getting even money if you bet him. Not Weary, Esper, excuse me. You may recognize him with his signature Red Sox cap. He's 49 years old, from Oxford, Massachusetts, weighing in at 195 pounds. This guy's got a lot of world records, Peter. Everything from 9.75 pounds of Spam from the can to 281 buffalo chicken wings in 12 minutes.
Yes,
Didn't he just eat 83 slices of John's incredible pizza in 10 minutes?
Wait. Yes, he has more world records than anybody. He was our pick to finish second last year, which he did. Jordan, in May, not so far from where I grew up, at the Mattatuck Lions Club Strawberry Festival.
Yes.
Esper downed 23 3/4 pounds of strawberry shortcake. Again, a food I did not know was subject to eating competitions because what's a regulation strawberry shortcake? There must be more kinds of strawberry shortcake than almost any food stuff in America. And again, who is counting the 3/4 of a shortcake? But I mean,
I want to add.
It's easy to root for him because he's been waiting so long to move into this top spot.
I want to add 2 more things. Okay.
Yes, sir.
He ate 17 3/4 bagels with cream cheese in 8 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Here's what I noticed about that. He has the world record, okay, in bagels and cream cheese, which I believe you said you would like to try, or you.
No, I was guacamole.
Or you would, right? But you said even that you couldn't, even on a holiday, you couldn't clear that many bagels and cream cheese. I was just thinking he could outdo you and me put together. He has the world record in bagels and cream cheese and in egg rolls. It is crazy.
But I also want to add that he is the champion of the DraftKings Big Game Snack Down.
Yes.
Which, as our sponsor DraftKings, we have requested to be catered with the Big Game Snack Down for 2 years now. In case you don't remember, that involves a whole pepperoni pizza, 32 ounces of chili, 25 pigs in a blanket, 100 cheese balls, 32-ounce 8-layer dip, 25 boneless wings, a whole 12-inch sub, 25 jalapeno poppers.
What I love about this is there's no cheating on any of those ingredients. It's not some runny dip that you could sneak in just as an extra item. It's an 8-layer dip, and you have to eat, what is it? A quarter of a gallon of it or something? And last year, I thought I was going out.
Peter, as DraftKings, as a DraftKings show, we would like this food to appear at least our next Super Bowl party.
Deliver it. Look, last year I thought we were going out on a limb, maybe a little too far, by demanding on air or during our show that we wanted the snack down platter or slot, whatever, the snack down delivered to us. I don't know if it's a timed record, but I've now spent 365 days eating crickets because I've been waiting for their response. So
that's right. The crown is yours, DraftKings. Deliver it.
The crown is yours. The snack down should be ours.
All right, Peter. How do you make sense out of these 4 guys? Are you leaning one way?
Okay.
Are the 650 odds enough for Bertoletti? Are you taking even money with Esper?
So Esper is the second place guy, deservedly the front runner. Bertoletti's a long shot because he came out of nowhere, like we said, after hibernating for a decade to eat all these hot dogs in great form. I kind of think that the value is with the guy in the middle, Jim Webb, right? Is it Jim Webb?
James
Webb.
You can call it. He
actually call him Jim because we've been covering him for so long.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's the first Australian to compete at Coney Island. Here's why, Jordan. He's on a tear. He has set 6 world records in just the past 6 months. I want to make sure I have this right. He has set world records in
Texas sausage,
in donuts and donut holes. Okay.
Yes.
He ate 224 wings in 10 minutes. Okay. I actually think that the sausage thing is kind of significant because he ate 51 sausages. Okay.
Which are the two and a half ounces, which
are
buns.
heavier than your
but no buns.
But they're heavier than your Coney Island hot dogs. Eating over 50 of those is a good sign. Also, he's 35, and I think somewhere along the line we have to account for conditioning, or at least not really artery clogging lifestyle for that long. I mean, being 35 against 50-year-olds or late 40-year-olds has to count for something. Anyway, Webb is hot, and you can get a little better value on him on the betting lines.
Well, this is the question then, right? Analytics have proven that like the hot hand doesn't exist in basketball. Are you saying the hot stomach can exist?
The hot stomach seems more plausible than the hot hand.
The hot esophagus, as it were.
The hot throat, baby.
Well, what about Nick Weary, who you're getting even better odds at plus 550? He was 4 dogs behind Jeffrey Esper last year. But 2 questions I want to ask. First of all, I do want your analysis of this rigged Cleveland primary or qualifier, as it were, where Weary was impressive, as was Bertoletti. But also, here's what I'm wondering from an eating mentality, okay? Last year, everybody knew they weren't going to win. So are you really going all out if you're a competitor to finish second? Are you shoving that last hot dog in your mouth to finish second? Are you bringing your A game when you know such a thoroughly dominant force like Joey Chestnut is there dominating you, are we going to see these guys all reach new personal bests, new levels of excellence because they can taste that mustard belt?
Well, let's re-
I can't believe we're talking about this.
I relish this, Jordan.
Yeah.
I'm glad we mustered the courage.
Let's catch up on
mustered
the rest of the
courage-
show
yeah,
now. Come on.
mustered the courage to do this. Look, I think that your 2 points are actually related. Take this seriously just for one moment.
All right.
In that Cleveland qualifier, yes, Bertoletti came out of nowhere for 48 and a quarter hot dogs. Nick Wehry had 48, right? This is an incredible totals. But the third place guy had 30, okay? The fourth place guy had under 15. The women's winner, Katie Priedemann, had 11. So
Women's win. No. Was she?
There was a women's qualifier in the same.
Oh, the
competition.
qualifier in Cleveland. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the.
She had 11. And so it's not like everyone took this giant leap forward, but you had these two.
No. But they just might not be elite eaters. Those might have been the only two elite ones.
Katie Priedemann is one of the top women eaters in the whole world. And what I'm saying is the fall off is drastic because you had two great male competitors going at each other. The competition can spur some greatness, okay? Even if it was for second place, I think these guys were fighting for second place because Joey Chestnut, because he was so dominant last year. But you got to remember, the gap between Joey, who could down more than 60, right?
Mm-hmm.
And these guys was substantial. And when you're looking at over-unders on these guys, the over-unders are often set near or above these competitors' personal bests. So I think they will spur each other on. I think there'll be tough competition. I don't think that means it's going to be easy for anybody to break 50 or come close to what Joey used to do on a routine basis.
Well, that leads to two more questions that I want to get into before we look at whether there's any long shots who can make any noise too. On the one hand, so you can bet an individual's over under, right? Do you have those lines in front of you?
No, because they were unappetizing even in this context. They're in the from 41 to 48 for guys who basically go from 41 to 48 on their best days.
Well, what I was going to ask you is on the one hand, by your theory, you should be targeting overs if these guys can have a little extra motivation, a little extra. On the other hand, most of those performances are based off eating hot dogs in ideal conditions and their best performances. And as we know, there may be no bigger factor in both home runs and hot dogs than weather. So
as we advance the analytics in this subject, Jordan, it turns out that heat and humidity are the enemies of eating a lot of crap really fast. And it's going to be 83 degrees forecast with 69% relative humidity in Coney Island on the 4th of July.
Right.
Jordan, I don't know how else to put this. Those are moist conditions.
Well, I mean, oh God, Peter, a lot of the 2000 contest was sort of like the Coors Field for the home run derby of eating championships. It was done indoors. What did I say?
2000 to 2020.
Yeah, now 2020, the COVID.
It was moved under glass like pheasant.
It was indoors. So in ideal conditions, all sorts of people set crazy marks.
Right.
They're not living up to that. So I would think that on a lot of the individual hot dog counts for these competitors, and I can't see the lines because I'm in New York, but I would be leaning toward a bunch of unders, wouldn't you?
I would expect great competition, a lot of excitement, but no world records and very few personal records.
All right. So Peter,
Jordan, why did the tofu hot dog cross the road?
Because you had a bad joke on the other side?
To prove he wasn't chicken.
Oh my God. All right. Well, on that note, we talked about the big four. You're leaning with Webb. Do I have to make a pick?
You absolutely have to make a pick.
All right. Give me Nick Wehry at plus 550. He's close enough to the other two. The odds are much, much more lucrative, and it'll be a family affair. The story of his winning the men's side, his wife, Mickey Sudo, who we'll talk about in a minute, winning the women's side again. Their kids can grow up to be just like mom and dad. What a story.
Well, she took, right. We'll get to this, but he got down on one knee after winning a competition, proposed to her, and then she took a year off to have a baby. And that child, as the younger generation says, is going to eat.
So 2 other numbers worth watching. The field, someone else other than the listed players plus 2,000. And then our guy Gideon OG
Yeah.
at plus 5,000. If you don't know Gideon OG, he's a 6'9" former college basketball player who 8 years ago ate 36 hot dogs.
Yes.
Came on strong. He is the kale eating champion of the world, I believe.
And Jordan, what do they call the kale competition? Kale, yeah. That's
Kale,
right.
yeah.
He won the kale, yeah, back in 2017.
Baloney, but he hasn't really improved on his hot dog since 2016. So on the one hand, you see this incredible 6'9" athlete who's built for this competition. On the other, there hasn't been that that jump. Is he capable of sensing the moment and adding 10 to 15 hot dogs to his total at plus 5,000, or is Gideon OG maxed out?
I think, I think he wanted to trigger a revolution in healthy eating competitions, and it didn't happen.
Stop it.
That's what the kale competitions were. When's the last time they held the kale?
He also won the
kale has disappeared.
He ate 2 pounds of sliced bologna in 52 seconds. Don't talk to me about healthy eating.
He's 6'9", 225.
10 pounds of baked beans in a minute 45.
Look,
now what's interesting, he really seemed to come onto the scene strong in 2016. That's where he set his green chili stew record. That's where he won the kale competition. That's when he ate the 38 hot dogs, excuse me, right away. And then he hasn't done much since then.
Just out of control now. Look, I think we both agree it's going to be hard for Gideon OG, as much as we like him, to get on a roll.
Wow. Do you think if they let you put sauerkraut on the hot dogs, it would actually add a little acidity and make it easier to go down? Because I like sauerkraut on my hot dog and some spicy brown mustard.
They don't allow that?
No.
Nobody. Nobody. Why are you dragging me into these hypotheticals? Nobody would do that for two reasons. It's extra food, and it also, sauerkraut makes you, as we'll talk about more with Miki Sudo, because she had an interesting experience, makes you burp. Nobody would eat extra sauerkraut with hot dogs in a competition. They'll save that for recreational hot dog eating.
All right, let's go. Let's talk about the women for a second. Let's talk about Miki, because Peter, do you have the current odds up there right now? She is such an overwhelming favorite.
Last I saw, they were a minus 4,500 for the great dominant Babe Ruth-esque Miki Sudo.
Now, what's interesting is Ibahara came in out of nowhere last year, and Sudo had 39.5 hot dogs, but Ibahara was not that far behind at 33.5.
Okay,
she's the one, by the way, I just want to point out that she consumed 220 pieces of sushi in one go, and also 15.5 pounds of curry. So she's done a lot of interesting eating in Japan. Now she's over here. Can she make up that 6 hot dog gap, considering she just came out of nowhere to compete last year?
Miki Sudo started out in Asian food contests as well years ago. So that the jump, I guess it's like coming to the big leagues is interesting. Here's the deal, okay? The gap between the number 1 and number 2 and 3 eaters last year in the women's contest was not as close as it seemed, okay? Because there was a surprise contestant gobbling down hot dogs, Miki Sudo looked challenged during the contest. She started watching the competition. She also started burping. These two things did not help her eat fast. No, this is serious. But here's the deal also. The running count of plates, like nobody's sitting there counting the number of hot dogs you eat. That's actually too hard because you might throw or spit or drop hot dogs. They count the plates. The plate count is what matters. And during the competition, the plate count went awry. It looked like there were 1 or 2 plates separating Miki Sudo in the competition. It was actually half a dozen. So look, it wasn't as close as it looked. Ibahara put up a great
6
performance.
hot dogs is still surmountable.
And
by the way, did Rory McIlroy
like worst night in a long time?
Didn't Rory McIlroy also have a burping problem at the end of the U.S. Open this year? Is that what cost him? It wasn't. That's why he missed that putt.
Jordan, hot dog walks into a bar. Bartender says, "Sorry, we don't serve food here." I think there's no stopping.
Which carnival will you be barking at later today? By the way,
it's the 4th of July. It's the 4th of July. Let me say this on a serious note. Since I am dressed red, white, and blue, and it is the 4th of July, we should note the passing of Juliet Li. Juliet Li was a chemistry professor at Nanjing University in China. When she moved to the U.S., she became a competitive eater and an owner of hair salons.
Okay.
If that isn't a freaking great American story, I don't know what is. She passed away at the untimely age of 54. Major League Eat. She was so beloved in the eating community. Major League Eating kept her ranking, her world ranking alive, even after she passed away. So this year, while you're stuffing your face with hot dogs, give one up for Juliette Lee, whose nickname was the Lovely.
Well, speaking of rankings, one of the coolest things is that they've combined the men's and women's rankings now.
Yes.
I don't know through what analytic process, but Miki Sudo is now number 3 in the world behind only Joey Chestnut and Jeffrey Esper, and she's one spot ahead of her husband,
Yeah.
Nick Weary.
I was going to say that must make for some wild household arguments. Now, let's think about this. Are there any other athletes, married or however they're, any couples, okay, who rank both in the top 5 in the world at what they do?
At one point, you could have said maybe Sue Bird and Megan
Yes.
Rapinoe,
Yes.
Steffi
Yes.
Graf and Andre Agassi back in the day.
That's a good one. Oh, our producer Sarah McCrory has just mentioned Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Yeah, that's a
If
good.
we expand it to non-sports fields, that's interesting.
All right, we're back with week 2 of our new segment, the Under of the Week, which is brought to you by DraftKings. Dive into all the action with our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code Underdogs only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. And Peter, I've got a good under this week, such a good under that the line is kind of juiced, but I'm still rolling with it, okay?
Yes. Does it have to do with Bellingham quoting Theodore Roosevelt?
It does not, but it does have to do with England.
Okay.
So England somehow in the last minute of stoppage time managed to survive against Slovakia and advance to the quarterfinals of Euro, where they will face Switzerland. The over-under of 2.5 goals. I love the under. Okay, let's talk about all the reasons why. First of all, up until the 95th minute of that game against Slovakia, England had basically scored 2 goals in 4 games. 1 against Denmark, 1 against Serbia, none against Slovenia, and none in 90-plus minutes against Slovakia. They are not clicking offensively. The complaints are valid. A late rescue goal by Jude Bellingham and a header from Harry Kane in extra time doesn't change that. But they are defending, Peter. They've allowed 2 goals in 4 games. And you see it all in expected goals, too. England's just 4.2 expected goals in 4 games. Switzerland, who they're playing, has just 5.3 expected goals in 4 games. By contrast, Germany and Spain are both over 8, okay? So you have 2 teams that aren't scoring, are defending, okay? Switzerland has been terrific defensively. They, sorry, pause for a second. I'm in the wrong spot of my notes. Sorry. Switzerland is defending. They've allowed exactly 1 goal in each group stage match and then shut out Italy. And while they've scored 7 goals in 4 matches, 3 came against Hungary. So it's also important to realize that this bet is only total goals in regular time. Okay. So if this goes to extra time, those goals don't count. So for instance, in the England-Slovakia match, you would have won under 2.5, even though it was 1-1 at the end of regular time. That 3rd goal came in extra time. You win. So under 2.5 goals right now, it's heavily juiced. It's -195 at DraftKings. I would wait on that line a little bit, depending on when you're listening to this. Maybe see if it gets bet. The juice changed a little bit, but ultimately, this game has 1-0, maybe 1-1 after regulation written all over it. These teams are not scoring. They're not offensive juggernauts. It's going to be a tight defensive game. Maybe goes to penalty kicks. So I love the under in this one, Peter.
Completely agree. And where bettors go with England from here on out is going to be one of the most interesting questions of the Euros, because remember, England was the favorite.
They're still the favorite.
They're still the favorite. I think.
I don't know how you justify it.
I think the numbers show that is ridiculous, but we'll see if that starts to move, because there's been sand in their gears so far.
They just look, England fans are always apoplectic, but just the lack of creativity and offensive punch, it's remarkable. Yeah, they're plus 350, and I guess the only reason Germany and Spain are plus 400 is they have to play each other. Yeah. So a lot of this is about England's path as well. But yeah, I'm down on England and I'm down on goals scored in this game. Take the under England against Switzerland. And that does it for another episode of Underdogs. We'll see you in a year for more hot dogs, and we'll see you next week for the rest of the sports world.